Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Betting Pros PGA podcast. I'm Pat Fitzmaurice. That's Bo McBrayer, and today we are going to preview the Genesis Invitational from a betting perspective. We're going to tell you who we like, who we don't like, what we're betting, and we will give you our one and done picks for the week at the end of the show. We're also going to recap the always entertaining, always festive Waste Management Phoenix Open. Bo, how was your Super Bowl Sunday?
That's fantastic. I'm still full. I don't think I need to eat for a few days. I think I need to go on like a juice cleanse or some kind of intermittent fast for maybe a day or two just to reset the whole clock, because I started barbecuing at 9 a.m. And when I finished barbecuing, I went to a party down the street at my neighbor's house, brought all the food over, and I ended up cooking more food when I was there. So I got to see a lot of the game. I got to see my queen, Alicia Keys, perform. Everything was great. It's one of my favorite days of the year. I think it's next to Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday of the year.
It is a great day for just gluttony and decadence, and I'm glad I'm not the only one with a crush on Alicia Keys. So we've got that figured out. I saw you tweet about that. So yeah, it's my wife's fault. She has all her CDs. So, you know, when I first met her, got exposed to a lot of Alicia Keys music, and doesn't hurt that she's gorgeous. So
it does not hurt one bit.
This show is sponsored by our friends at Underdog Fantasy, and you are probably familiar with Underdog's outstanding best ball contest for fantasy football. But Underdog also has golf contests. Sign up for Underdog, if you haven't already, with the promo code BPGolf and get your first deposit matched up to $100. Plus, there is a special pick available for you in the lobby. More on Underdog and its golf contest a bit later. The Waste Management Phoenix Open, Bo. We got an exciting finish that very few people actually got to see because the tournament was decided after kickoff of the Super Bowl. I was toggling back and forth between football and golf, so I did catch the finish. Nick Taylor made up 3 strokes on the final 4 holes at TPC Scottsdale to force a playoff with 47-year-old Charlie Hoffman. They played the 18th hole again in the playoff. Both hit nice drives, both hit good approach shots, and both made their birdie putts. Second playoff hole, Taylor puts his drive in the rough. Hoffman puts his drive in a bunker. Both hit nice approach shots, and then Taylor rolled in his 12-footer for the birdie after Hoffman failed to make his 28-footer. So it was the first win for Taylor since his epic 70-foot bomb on the 4th playoff hole of the Canadian Open last year to beat Tommy Fleetwood and become the first Canadian to win the Canadian Open since 1954. Apparently, you do not want to end up in a playoff against Nick Taylor because he is just nails, especially with the flat stick. Taylor and Hoffman both finished 3 shots ahead of Scotty Scheffler, who briefly held the lead on Sunday, but just didn't do enough on the back 9. Went out in 31, kind of limped home with a 35, just sort of an indifferent back 9. Sam Burns also finished 3 shots back. Sahith Theegala, who really seems to like TPC Scottsdale, he couldn't contend. He did contend again, but he couldn't get much cooking on Sunday. Theegala finished 4 shots back. One thing about this year's Waste Management Phoenix Open that I want to mention because it greatly annoyed me. So on Thursday, they had this hours-long weather delay, very atypical of the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. They had wind and rain blow through. But tournament officials seemed very nonchalant about making up for lost time. Didn't seem like they moved up the tee times on Friday. So a lot of players hadn't finished round 2 by the end of the day. And then on Saturday, they let every player finish round 2 before they started round 3. So there was this strange dynamic where it was midday on Saturday. And Bo, this was weird. Like, my wife is typically not gone from the house that much, like doesn't take business trips. But she and my daughter were doing a college tour. I had the house to myself with the dog, basically, and was really bored and wanted to watch golf. And there were like 2 or 3 groups on the course at 1:30 Central Time on Saturday. Meanwhile, they have these typically massive crowds that they always get at TPC Scottsdale for this event, and there was very little actual golf for them to watch. So what do you do at TPC Scottsdale? for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, if there's no golf to watch, you drink, and you drink a lot. So that got to be a problem. People were doing mudslides down hills. It was getting a little rowdy. They had to cut off alcohol sales. So, yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a catastrophe. The bigger consequence of all the lollygagging, Bo, was that the two-man playoff was conducted basically in a vacuum because everyone was watching the Super Bowl. So a lot of people missed what was actually a really exciting finish, and that's too bad. Bo, your thoughts on this year's Waste Management Phoenix Open, and did you catch any of the playoff, or had you just committed to football by then?
No, I pretty much was switching to football as soon as Scotty was out of it. So I had a 2-unit bet on Scotty Scheffler outright. I also had Scotty parlayed with the Chiefs, which would have been nice if Scotty had a great back nine. His back nine had too many pars on birdie holes, and there's a lot of great scoring opportunities to be had. And where he was on fire on Sunday morning, he came out, finished his third round in a crazy good back nine. Then he started off his final round with a great front nine. He had something like 25 birdies in the last 2 days. And I was thinking, oh man, he's got the lead. He's just going to pull away from these guys. And what happened is all these other guys had the same birdie holes on that back nine, and he did too, and he just didn't convert any of them. He was missing some uncharacteristic fairways. His approach shots that were getting stuck close, he was like 15, 20 feet out on some of them. And of course, with his putting, that's not Scotty's bag. Scotty's bag is hitting it as close as you can so that the birdie opportunities are easier when you're putting on flat greens like that. He just didn't do enough to do it. As soon as he dropped out of contention, I switched over to football because that pretty much nixed a lot of my bets, except for I had him locked in for a nice little payout for the top 5, but it was a rough go watching two guys that nobody had. I mean, I had Nick Taylor in my DFS pool. He ended up being, I think, 6th in my model for stats. So I did have a good amount of Nick Taylor in DFS, which helped a bit. But on the betting side, I was nowhere near him or Chuck Hoffman. And Chuck, it seems like he only shows up for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, so I should have seen it coming. So, yeah, it was just a disaster of a week for the betting side. The casinos are just rolling in our money like Scrooge McDuck right now. And we need to hit one of these long shots, because if they're going to keep coming, we have to be able to lock it down so that we can get some of this bankroll back in our pockets. Right now, it's looking pretty skimpy, but I love the Genesis, and I think that this is going to be a really strong week for both of us.
Yeah, the 2024 PGA Tour season so far, Bo, it's been like a modern-day elementary school classroom. No chalk whatsoever. And that does seem like maybe it could turn this week in the Genesis Open, a smaller field. It seems like it would be a good week for one of the guys at shorter odds to finally come through. We'll get to the Genesis in just a moment, but first, go sign yourself up with our friends at Underdog Fantasy, where you can make picks on your favorite golfers all season long. Just pick higher or lower on selected stats for 2 to 5 golfers, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single day. You can also make rivals picks, choosing, for example, which of 2 golfers will shoot a better score in a round. Golf picks can be combined with player stats from other sports as well. Sign up for Underdog if you haven't already with the promo code BPGolf to get your first deposit matched up to $100. Plus, there's a special pick available for you in the lobby. All right, after a week in Arizona, the tour returns to California once more. The Genesis Invitational played at one of our favorite courses, Bo. I know it's my favorite non-major course at Riviera Country Club in Los Angeles. Par 71 that plays to 7,322 yards. Riviera is just this marvel of golf architecture, and it looks so good on television, too. Riviera gives us a little bit of everything. There are interesting par 3s. There's some long, demanding par 4s, and maybe the best short par 4 in the world. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. There's some reachable risk-reward par 5s. There's a memorable finishing hole that plays uphill with the gorgeous Spanish-style clubhouse of Riviera looming in the background. And Riviera, I don't know, it's fair yet demanding. narrow fairways, and this is such a quirky course, Bo. The first hole is a par 5, and like a very short one at that, 503 yards. If you want to go low at Riviera, you better birdie the first hole. The sixth hole at Riviera is a 200-yard par 3 with a pot bunker cut right into the middle of the green. Smack dab into the middle of the green. So the green is basically divided into quadrants. Riviera's got a lot of cool looking trees. Some are California sycamores. Some are eucalyptus trees, which sometimes look like they're dead. I'm told that these trees are not, in fact, dead, but they give, it's almost like this creepy, ominous look to some of the holes, like Gothic almost. It's pretty
Most
cool.
things in Los Angeles are actually dead. They just don't look dead. They're well preserved. So it's a nice juxtaposition. The paradox is the Gothic look to Riviera when the rest of the city is dead but looking alive. It's the opposite.
And then, Bo, we have the iconic 10th hole.
Love it.
Par 4, 315 yards. So this is short even by the standards of your local Muni course. But this is one devilish little par 4. The green looks about as narrow as a staircase. Yes. The back part of it is completely surrounded by bunkers on all sides. Some players will try to drive the green. Some will try to lay up and try to set themselves up with a little wedge shot. But the green is so narrow that even a wedge shot from like 80 yards out is not guaranteed to hit the green. And I thought I heard someone say that the green and regulation percentage on shots of under 75 yards is still only like 62%. That's how ridiculously hard this hole is. Leaving it short and right of the hole is a near certain bogey. And if you drive it long and left, you've got trees that come into play. Good luck with that. I could watch the tour pros play the 10th hole all day, Bo. Like, we need just a dedicated channel to the 10th hole because I could sit and watch that the entire day.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. Last year's Genesis Invitational was won by John Rahm, who's now on the Live Tour and will not be around to defend. Rahm won by 2 shots over Max Homa and 3 shots over Patrick Cantlay, both of whom will be in this week's field. And this is a PGA Tour signature event. So it's going to be a good field, but it always is. Tiger Woods will host and make his 2024 debut. There's 71 players in the field, and after the second round, they will cut down to the top 50, plus ties, plus anyone within 10 shots of the lead. Bo, give me any thoughts you might have on this event and this fantastic golf course.
Yeah, the golf course is iconic, not just for where it is, which is noteworthy in itself, being kind of carved right into old Los Angeles. Very, very expensive real estate down there. Riviera is, as course architecture goes, it's a marvel. It's something that you don't see anywhere else. And you can't find really any comp courses for it. You mentioned the first hole. It's the easiest hole on the PGA Tour, period. Number 1, easiest hole on the PGA Tour. Number 10, you mentioned the options that the players have. That's the beauty of a good golf hole. It doesn't matter how long it is, but if you have a hole that gives 70 players 70 different playing options, you'll notice that some guys will lay up to a certain club or a certain shot that they're comfortable with just so they don't have to do anything out of their comfort zone. And those are the ones that usually do well. It's usually the ones that not necessarily lay up, but they aim for the far left front part of the green so that they have a chip shot up that very narrow corridor green, which also slopes away from you into those back bunkers. And because it's such a sliver, you have no room, you have no green to work with out of those bunkers. So you'll see guys, when it is firm and fast, like it usually is on these Poa greens, is you'll see one guy chip out of a bunker and it'll roll off the green into the other bunker, and they'll go back and forth, and you'll see some big numbers on that little tiny hole. You'll also see some eagle putts. You'll also see some tap in birdies, but it demands precision. It demands a plan. And that's what golf is all about, is watching the best to do it struggle or succeed based on just being overly skilled. This is the true test of golf, is being able to master a hole that could be a 3 or a 2, or it could be a 7 or 8. We've seen both all the way through the years here. And then, of course, everything else is just big trees, lots of sharp dog legs, narrow tee shots, but it demands guys who can hit the ball off the tee accurately with power. It's short hitters rarely win here because it's prohibitive when you have to hit long irons into some of these greens that are very firm and fast. And of course, putting on Poana is never easy, especially when they run them as quick and just recklessly fast as sometimes we see here at Riviera. I love the carnage. This is the toughest non-major golf course on the Rota. You know me. I'm all for the high scores. Give me the eagle one and then struggle the rest of the round. That's what I want to see.
And we have not even mentioned the Kikuyu grass, the rough that is so unpredictable. You don't know what the ball is going to do coming out of that stuff. So
picture miniature succulent like cacti, and it's like blades of grass, but they're really firm and robust, and they interlock. So you get a ball that sits down in there, and it's going to grab your club face and twist it shut, which you'll see some flyers and some snap hooks out of that rough. Or you might slide the club face completely underneath it and pop the ball up and it goes nowhere. That all of those are in play if you miss these very narrow fairways at Riviera. It's going to be fun to watch because we're going to see some amazing things happen like we have through years. We're going to see some meltdowns too.
And it's funny, Bo, you talked about hole number 1 and how easy that is, and then number 10 and all the carnage we can see there. With them splitting the groups, of course, in the first 2 days, guys teeing off on the front side, guys teeing off on the back, it's like such a difference in the way you start your round. Start it with a nice, easy birdie. It almost feels like you're losing ground to the field if you make a par on number 1. Number 10, you're just trying to survive, get your par and get out. And so love this course. Let's talk about the odds, Bo, all of which came from DraftKings as of 3 p.m. Monday afternoon Eastern time. So some of these odds may have changed. Scottie Scheffler, the favorite at plus 650, followed by Rory McIlroy, plus 900. Victor Hovland is plus 1,200. Xander Schauffele at plus 1,400. Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, and Colin Morikawa sit at plus 1,600. Ludwig Aubert and Justin Thomas are plus 1,800. Sam Burns at plus 2,200. Jordan Spieth at plus 2,500. Tony Finau plus 2,800. And then Tommy Fleetwood and Adam Scott at plus 3,000. You liked Scottie Scheffler in Phoenix last week, Bo, at plus 500. How do you feel about the Riv at plus 650?
I think the Riv's going to eat him for lunch and spit him out on day one. Honestly, just 70-man field, and he came in 45th in my model. And there's something to be said about Scottie Scheffler's ball striking. He tends to excel at ball striking on courses that aren't overly demanding off the tee. Where just like Scottsdale, like we saw him struggle when he missed a fairway or two on the back nine at Scottsdale. You miss a fairway here, and it's going to be hell because you can't scramble. Like he's not an overly good scramble because of his putting. His ball striking in these conditions is middle of this pack at best, and so I have him way down off my list completely. I'm going to start mine at Rory McIlroy, who came in number 1 by a long shot in my model. Like we're talking, he just slipped to 10-1. I love to see Rory at 10-1. That's my landing spot, my flag plant. That dude on this course with his ball striking, his short game underrated, his putting on Poana underrated. Rory McIlroy, I think, will run away with this thing.
Interesting, yeah. So Rory's last 5 trips here, he has 3 top 10s, but nothing better than a 4th in those trips. He does have a missed cut squeezed in there. Last year he was 29th, so he hasn't quite conquered it. But obviously with the 3 top 10s, there's some degree of comfort here for Rory McIlroy. And, in his last 3 events, he does have a win and a second. So he's coming in pretty good form. Any love for, I know you like Colin Morikawa and his ball striking. How do you feel about him on this kind of a track? He has, he's in his last 2 events here, 2nd and 6th.
Yeah, he's strong across the board here. I think his putting on Poana might hold him back. He's also not overly good on par fives, which is going to be really important here. I really think that if he does well enough on where his strengths are, which are the long approach, the par fours, avoiding bogeys is his strong suit. But his putting on Poana for being a California guy has been atrocious. So it's something to monitor. We're looking for somebody who can score where the scoring is tough, and I don't think he's done that so far this year. I'm looking more towards Max Homa, who's done well here every single time, it seems like. In that same range, Max Homa is a much stronger play because across the board and all the stats I'm looking at, he seems to be the better play. He also has a much better track record at Riviera.
Oh, man. Talk about Max Homa's track record here, Bo. Last 4 appearances, 5th, victory, 10th, 2nd. So that is pretty sterling. So great form here at Riviera. And Homa, obviously one of the favorites for a good reason. A couple of guys who are sort of intriguing. Aubert, like really good form. He has finished 9th and 2nd in his last 2 events, but he's never played the Genesis before. And I do kind of wonder if this course is just so unique. I don't love betting on someone who's making their debut, even if they're a world-class player coming in really good form. Would you agree with that, or are you interested?
Yeah, for as talented as he is, I don't know that he has shown the chops on these tougher courses to really warrant the numbers he's drawing. It's kind of just like an overinflation. Like, we never really get a true fair odds on Tiger Woods throughout the years, even if it was on a course he's never won at, like Riviera. It's like those get lost because of popularity. Ludwig is very popular, but he hasn't earned it yet. And he will. He's so talented that we're going to hear from Ludwig a lot over the years coming. But this isn't a place where I'm trusting a guy who hasn't seen the course, hasn't played the course under these conditions, and isn't overly good on approach. He's been terrible on approach. And for me, that's a big red flag in a place like this where you're going to have to scramble, you have to scratch and claw to make pars. He's a really good birdie maker when the conditions are right, but that's just because his short game's good and off the tee is really good. He has the chops to do it. I just don't trust him at that number.
Yeah, now one guy I am going to bet here, Bo, I'll give you a preview of my betting card. Sam Burns, because he's coming in really hot. He's had 3 top 10 finishes in the last 4 weeks, so he has been in fantastic form. He's missed the cut in his last 2 appearances at the Genesis, but he did finish 3rd here in 2021. How do you feel about Sam Burns this week?
He's a wild card. He's got every bit. I think if the conditions stay pretty calm, he's going to stay in contention because, especially putting on Poana, like that's the reason he's been so hot, is this guy hasn't missed any putts. He's been making everything. And I think his all-around game is strong enough. I don't know if he's strong enough off the tee to really win here, but I mean, recent form does play a part. When you're playing a course this tough, you have to be able to maximize opportunities. So I think I want to play Sam Burns, but I'm also a little bit leery about his track record here being checkered at best.
Checkered is a good way to describe it, yes.
If he keeps the hot putter alive, then yes, he can absolutely make noise here.
And by the way, weather, last I checked, they're not expecting much wind. It's going to be really light, like 5 miles an hour basically every day. Temperatures in the low to upper 60s or mid to upper 60s.
Sounds awful. Sounds terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe a chance of rain, though, beginning late Saturday and into Sunday. Hopefully we don't get the final round delayed at all. We will get to more odds in a minute. But first, if you want a chance to win a free 1-year premium Betting Pros subscription, you need to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so be sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. All right, we have a large and interesting group at 35-1 odds this week. Bo, Wyndham Clark, Will Zalatoris, Sahith Theegala, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Cameron Young. Then we've got Tom Kim at 45 to 1, Sungjae Im, Jason Day, and JT Poston at 50 to 1, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, and Nikolai Hogard at plus 5,500, and Keegan Bradley, Eric Cole, and Ben An at 60 to 1 plus 6,000. So anyone from this group you like?
A couple guys here. Cam Young's interesting because what we've looked at over the last couple of years is Cam Young can't finish. Cam Young, his putter is atrocious at times. So we're talking some of the worst putting I've ever seen. Vomit worthy, just horrible putting stroke. But last 24 rounds on Poana greens, he's number 6 in this field. And that shot off alarms in my head like, whoa, did this guy work his butt off and get something figured out? Because if that's the case, this guy's ball striking from tee to green is as good as it gets. And if he can stay out of trouble here, there's going to be some noise made because nobody scores at tougher courses better than Cam Young. When he's rolling and he's making some putts, this is a scary guy. And for 30 to 1 odds or 35 where he's sitting right now, I love that line for him because nobody's really going to be talking about him. He hasn't really accomplished anything. 6 runner-up finishes. 6 runner-up finishes. This guy needs to win something fierce. This is a kind of place in a limited field event where he can win, and he definitely has the talent to do it. The other guy I'm looking at is Nikolai Højgaard. This guy's short game is unreal. Unreal short game. Off the tee, he's outstanding. Give me that line. 55, I think, is the last line I've checked. Nikolai Højgaard, 55 to 1. I'm looking at plus 450 to make top 10. That's an outstanding opportunity to score big from the books here. This guy's got tons of talent for a 22-year-old. You talk about Ludwig Aubert. This guy's just as good. But nobody's talking about Højgaard yet.
I like it. You know, I'm on the Højgaard bandwagon, Bo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he is making his debut at Riviera, but he has been in really good form lately. His last 3 events, 7th, 2nd, 31st. And Cameron Young, I mean, there's a nice merging of good form with course fit. He's finished 2nd and 20th in his last 2 Genesis appearances, and he's finished top 10 in 2 of his last 3 events. I kind of like Wyndham Clark. Like, we know he can putt POA. He had that 60 on Pebble Beach a few weeks ago. Good. Yeah, and he's had 2 top 20s at Riviera in the last 4 years. I'm sort of intrigued by Will Zalatoris, Bo. In 3 previous trips to Riviera, he's finished 15th, 26th, and 3rd. And then, you know, we were kind of waiting to see him maybe get back into decent form before we were interested in wagering on him after the back surgery. Well, his last event, the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, he finished 13th. So he was around the leaderboard that week. So I'm intrigued by Zalatoris. Let's talk about longer shots and long shots, Bo. Who do you like with odds of 65 to 1 or longer? And any love for tournament host Tiger Woods at 130 to 1?
Well, I'll start with Tiger. It's always exciting. I mean, we both kind of came up through the prime years of Tiger Woods, just in the peak of golf enjoyment on TV. He's an icon. And this might be the first time in a long time we actually get fair odds on him at 130 to 1. He's never won here. He's never won here. And that should shock everybody. He won at Torrey Pines 8 times. He's never won at Riviera. So I'm not betting on Tiger Woods. It's as great of a story as it is. It's a fair line for a reason. At the same time, I'm looking at a couple guys here that are really, really long shots. The one guy that keeps popping up is the one guy that I usually hate playing, but he is number 9 in my model, and that's Luke List. Another guy who comes in where he's actually one of the worst putters traditionally on tour. Last year, he cut his putting strokes lost putting to break even, went from 100 and something to 60 something on tour. He's number 5 on Poana greens the last 24 rounds in this field. That's a big change. This guy went to a longer putter, more consistency. He's going out at 110 to 1. Luke List, ball striking extraordinaire, birdie making extraordinaire. He annihilates par 5s. he annihilates par fours. This guy is, if he can make some putts, if he can stay where he's putting for birdie and not putting for knee-knocking pars, this guy can make some big noise on a tough golf course. Another play that's similar to Cam Young, similar to Willie Z. I'm a huge Willie Z fan. These guys are outstanding ball strikers that just have had a balky putter the last couple of years and are rounding the corner into something special with where their ball striking can shine. Luke List is right there in that same category.
Yeah, he intrigues me now that you mention it, Bo. I might have to add him to the card. I didn't realize he's been putting so well on the POA, but it does seem like on a course with a lot of short par fives and long par fours, that is right up Luke List's alley. Kevin Yu, Bo, is 150-1. He's already had two really nice showings in California this season, a tie for third at the American Express and a tie for sixth at Torrey Pines. He missed the cut in Phoenix, but he had kind of a bad draw. Like, he was one of the few guys who I think got his entire round in before the weather delay on Thursday. And like, the weather was not great before that weather delay. And he was playing well until he had to complete his second round on Saturday morning, and then the wheels just kind of came off. So I'm intrigued. I feel like 150-1 is a pretty good price for a guy whose form has been pretty solid. Like, I don't know if he fits the course that well, but yeah, didn't come out well in your model.
Almost towards the very bottom, 61st out of 70, mainly because he's got no short game. His short game non-existent, putting stroke awful. He's a stripe show. If you want to just watch shot tracers all day, this guy's amazing to watch. Off the tee on approach, he's really solid. He's been playing out of his mind lately. But if he misses the green, he's pretty much dead. He's not good around the greens. He's not good scrambling, and he cannot putt. This is one of the worst putters on tour, which is unfortunate with how good he is from tee to green. I just can't see him excelling at a place like Riviera with those chops. He's got a ways to go before he joins the ranks of all-around players that do well here. That's what it's going to demand. The full bag, it has got to be on point to win at Riviera. That's just a fact.
By the way, I got to backtrack to what you said about Tiger Woods. It is kind of funny that he is hosting at this course where his track record has been so spotty. Why isn't he hosting at Bay Hill? He's been
sponsored by Hyundai and Genesis for years, though. He gave himself the last sponsors exemption.
It's true. It's all about the sponsors, I guess, and not so much about the venue. But, if it were about the venue, he'd be hosting at Bay Hill or Torrey Pines or one of these places where he's just dominated over the years. Right. All right, Bo, what do you have on your betting card as of now?
So I have Rory 10-1. I have Max Homa 18-1. Cameron Young 30-1, Nikolai Højgaard 55-1, and Luke List at 110-1. I'm throwing top 5 bets on Rory to double up, a top 10 bet on Homa and Cam, and a top 20 kicker with Luke List.
All right, I'm gonna have to add List and Højgaard, I think, especially since Højgaard came out well in your model. I wasn't sure about that given his non-existent track record here. But I also have Max Homa outright at plus 1,800, Sam Burns outright at plus 2,000, Adam Scott, who we haven't mentioned, by the way, and Adam Scott, let's see, well, we'll talk about him in a minute, actually, but I've got Adam Scott top 5. I'm not taking him outright. I've got him top 5 at plus 600. So Cameron Young outright at plus 3,000 and top 5. At plus 650. I've got Wyndham Clark outright at plus 4,000. And I do have a very small outright bet on Kevin Yu, 150-1. All right. And it is time for our one and done picks, Bo. Last week, I took Hideki Matsuyama, who finished tied for 22nd, good for $82,133. You had Bo Hostler, who finished tied for 41st, good for $30,404. Not a lot of blood in Phoenix for us last week.
He made the cut.
I chipped away. I took a very small fragment out of your enormous lead in our season-long competition. I'm up first this week, and I am going to take the aforementioned Adam Scott, the smooth-swinging Australian. He has 1 win and 5 top 11 finishes in his last 8 trips to Riviera. he manages this course so well, and his ball striking is such a good fit for this place. He's also in good form. He's finished top 10 in 3 of his last 4 events. So nice combination of course fit and recent form. Who are you taking this week, Bo?
So it's a really nice solid pick. I love Adam Scott here. I don't love him enough to make that my one and done at a place like Riviera. And I think I teased it a couple weeks ago when you took Max Homa at Pebble Beach. I said I was going to save him for Riviera because this guy just owns the place. He's made 4 top 10s in a row now, including the championship in 2021. Max Homa, with the way he putts on Poana, with his masterful short game and his off the tee game as strong as it is, he's the perfect fit for Riviera. And I wouldn't see it any other way because I don't picture him really dominating any majors. I don't see Max Homa as a multi-major winner in the future, but he just loves it here. And so it would be crazy for me to say I'm going to play Max Homa at Riviera and not do it. That's my pick.
Yeah, and when I took Homa at Pebble a few weeks ago, like I was keeping Adam Scott in mind as like knowing how well he's played this course. So I do think those are like the 2 chalk picks for one and done events. Yeah, that is the way to go if you're in a one and done. Take either Max Homa or Adam Scott. And that is going to do it for this week's show. I want to thank our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Sign up for Underdog with the promo code BP Golf to get your first deposit matched up to $100, plus a special pick available for you in the lobby. And please come join Bo and I again next week when we will be previewing the Mexico Open. Until then, so long, everyone.